Woohoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday. And I have a lovely guest today who I got to meet at Uplift Live. And now here she is on the show. So it's awesome. So I have Sarah in the house today, Sarah Townsend. Can you please introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do? And then we'll get stuck in with our topic today.
I sure can. I'm Sarah. I have spent the past 25 years as a freelance copywriter, running my own business, helping marketing managers and business owners to find the right words to attract the right clients to their business and become more successful. I am also the author of 2 books. The Little Book of Confusables, which is a gorgeous language book, which is tons of fun and contains memorable tips for confusing words. And this is my first book, Survival Skills for Freelancers, which I wrote in 2020. And it's since sold in 28 countries around the world. Slight plug there, because I'm really proud of that fact as a self-published author.
Wow. And my goodness, talk about coming out around the right time, because it was like, like the pandemic. So everybody, so many people.
Everybody was working from home.
Yes, yes, yes. So, okay, we'll get to everything in a second. I want to pull up our banner today because our talk is about the power of human language and how it helps you create genuine connections. And this is an absolutely awesome topic. And I had said to Sarah in the DMs when we were, kind of saying, okay, what should we chat about? One of the things I just said is like, that's everywhere on LinkedIn. Like, if you think about it, it's like, well, even with shows like this, videos and live streams, our words are important, what we say, and we're all on the spot to say the right thing and there's no editing. But when you think of all the places on LinkedIn that you can be using words to connect with people, from your headline to your profile, to your articles, to your posts, there's just so many places. So Sarah, let's just get stuck in. So tell me, what are your thoughts about language and connections and how they all go together?
Okay, so it's a really big subject. So I'm going to try and cover as much as I can in this chat. And yeah, I think fundamentally there's a lot of concern out there about people using AI to promote their business, to write blog posts, to write social media posts. And I feel like we're all becoming really adept at spotting an AI written post or even the AI written comments. I don't know if you found that on LinkedIn. But I find it quite fun to notice which ones have been written by AI. But I think it was Nigel Cliff at the Uplift Live John Esperian's conference a couple of months ago, who said, trust is the currency of the future. And trust is not something that AI can ever replicate. AI can't help you build trust, because ultimately it's not remembering that you are a human trying to help another human. What we quite often think of with our business when we're writing for our business is, oh, I'm writing this blog post and it's aimed at recruitment teams or businesses or brands that want to hire a graphic designer or whatever your area of specialty is. But ultimately, your words aren't read by teams or departments or brands. They're read by people. And at the end of the day, you are a person trying to help another person. And the higher the chances of you actually getting your message to grab attention to begin with. So actually hook the reader in, grab attention, and then get them to read to the end. Understand what they've read, and then most importantly, to take some form of action. You've got a far greater chance of achieving those goals when you're using your reader's language rather than business speak or jargon or corporate waffle, all those things that we used to see on LinkedIn. And actually, I think LinkedIn is getting a lot better.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And I know when I post things, I like to actually record my thoughts, because sometimes a blank page on the computer kind of freaks me out. And so a lot of times I'll just pick up my phone. I love to use Otter AI, and I'll say, oh, I want to write a post about, and then I just kind of start speaking it, because then I have my natural language for when I'm writing, and then I clean it up and, make sure the grammar's right and the punctuation and all that sort of stuff. But so sometimes I do that because I think it's important to speak conversationally, not like, oh, I'm putting on my LinkedIn professional hat now.
Yes.
The party of the first part and the party of the second part. It's like, nobody wants to read that stuff.
No, you're so right. I think one of the things that a lot of people do when they're faced with that blank page syndrome is they think, I've got to write in a business, in a formal, in a professional manner. And you can still be conversational, you can still be human, but you're still being professional and not advocating using lots of slang or kind of abbreviations or anything like that. This is about remembering, like getting super clear on who your audience is and the sort of problems that keep them awake at night, the things that they worry about, the problems that your business solves for them or the services that you provide can help them with. So whether you save them time or you make them look good to their boss or you just make their life easier in some way. Once you're clear about those things, it's much easier to put those things across in a way that your reader can actually go, oh, this person, they get me, they see me, they recognize the things that I'm finding challenging, and it sounds like they can help me with those things. And I think what happens a lot of the time when we get, like, we talk a lot about getting clear about your customer avatar or customer, your dream customer profile, don't we? Once you've taken the time to do that, it's sort of super easy to fall into the habit of going, oh, okay, so I'm addressing a room full of, or an audience, like a scattergun approach. I am addressing LinkedIn. Why does my cat always come in the middle of doing live? It's inevitable. But when you're writing something on LinkedIn, you're kind of thinking of the group audience. And there's this really great quote from Shelley Polikoff, who was an ad woman in the 50s or 60s in America. And she said, copy is a direct conversation with the consumer or the customer. And keeping that in mind and like having this really clear image of this kind of fleshed out person who, what makes this person tick? Who is your dream client? What do they like doing in their spare time? All this stuff that kind of makes them feel more real and more genuine to you. If you keep in mind all the time, every time you're writing anything, that you're not kind of going, hey guys, that's addressing the masses, addressing a group of people. You're actually wanting to make that connection with that person who you can imagine sitting across from you, and you're having a one-to-one in-person conversation with them. What sort of things did they need to hear? It's not about what you want to tell them. It's about what they need to hear to be in a position where they can actually make a decision to work with you.
I love that. And it's so true. And I know, like, I have an avatar called Bob, and
Oh,
Bob is who I write to all the time. Bob, I have a little cartoon of him, and that keeps him friendly as well. And when I write stuff, I write to Bob because, like you said, it's a one-to-one conversation. Because if you start saying, have you all, and it's like, there's what, 60 million people reading this article on LinkedIn? Or is it you're saying, you have an upcoming live and you want to know how to promote it? Here's what I'm going to tell you. That's more personal. And so if I write to Bob, then I'm good.
I laugh then because when I do this as a webinar talking about human language, I actually have a slide that says, this is Bob, and he's a little cartoon Bob. That's very strange. But it's like you say, using the language, like using the word you, is so powerful because people know that you're addressing just them. Obviously you're not, but to all intents and purposes, you are talking to them, having a conversation with them. And it's much more important and much more powerful than saying on your website, for example, the homepage of your website, we help our clients do X, Y, Z. Okay, good for you. Like, what does that have to do with me? Instead, if you say, I can help you, start off with addressing the challenge and say, sometimes this can be tough. and it can be hard to know how to approach XYZ.
Mm,
I can help you do XYZ. And
mm.
actually by using those words and remembering that you're having that in-person conversation at all times, it's just a much more powerful way of addressing your potential client.
I love that. And I think I know, like, I come from a tech writing background, so I'm very good at writing informational step-by-step approaches. And the hardest transition for me when I went in from tech writing to marketing was kind of using things that created emotion, because you don't do that in tech writing. It's just,
So
click here, do this, do this. And so using words like, imagine if you didn't have to work at a blank, sit at a blank screen, and I could write your copy, and your copy could be delivered to you and put right onto your website. Using words like imagine, that it's almost like a call to action in the middle of the writing. But I think that causes people it stimulates a response when you use those kind of emotional words.
it's super positive and powerful because also it helps. It's using, like you say, it's using language that helps people feel, and using that kind of embracing curiosity is a really important way of creating those connections. So if you can get people to think in pictures using your words,
Mm.
you're half the way there. You can get them to picture where they are now, but actually imagine how much better life would be if you could take them across that bridge from where they are now to where they want to be.
I love that. I love that. So a lot of times we get our words wrong, and that can really, I think I saw it on your website that you kind of never get a second chance to make a first impression. And it's so true that it's like, I can see, everything from typos to the wrong words. And to me, that's where your book comes in. And I'm going to show it again. Oh, now it's
This little
disappeared.
beauty.
Yes, this one here. I just love it. I have the Kindle version. And that book was like, I wrote a review and I said, this is a book I needed in 8th grade, where, my teachers were not making English fun. They made it like, "Ugh, I'll never remember this." And I remember that feeling of like, I'll never remember this. And I'm just going to share one of the things that I just loved is you had the word desert, because it's confusables, desert and dessert. And it's just like, that's the one where I always sit and go, "Ugh." And I have to spell. I don't spell auditorily. I spell by visually. So I have to write it out because I'm a big reader. So then I can recognize, oh, it's this one, not this one. But if I hear a word, that's why I can't do spelling bees, but I can play really good Scrabble. And so I laughed because your tip was, the difference is the 2 S's. So dessert has the 2 S's and desert has 1. And then you said SS, it's like having an extra helping of dessert. And it was just, I'm paraphrasing, but that was just like, okay, now I'll remember that forever. That was brilliant.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've noticed a lot of people out there will go, oh, falling standards of English, and oh, the new generation don't know how to write, and people will just moan and complain and get really heavy about this stuff. Whereas actually, like, nobody likes that negative energy. I've always found it so much easier just to give people little hook kind of tips, little memorable things that, like you say, they stick in your mind because they're a bit daft. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're just, okay, that's logical, that's going to stick in my brain forevermore. And it's like a lot of people remember, I mean, a lot of people still get this wrong, but stationery with an A and stationery with an E.
Mm.
And all my life I've remembered E for envelope. That's really easy. E for envelope. Like how much easier can it be? But a lot of people already know that tip. But this book is absolutely jam-packed with 600 confusing words and fun, memorable ways to remember them. Because I just think if you make learning fun, it sticks in your brain more, it's more memorable, it's more sticky, and just people love it. But also it's like, I'm always raving about the fact that it is typographically gorgeous. It's just a beautiful book. And
It's a great, it's a great book. It's a great book. And it's just kind of something that you could pick up, and it's like just little tidbits. And so I have to ask, you talk about the different categories of homophones and
Yeah,
homonyms and all
yeah.
those different things, but you had one and I'm like, what? And it was, okay, I have to
Echoes?
look it up. What it was, the acorns.
Yes, I knew you
Egg
were going to say that
ed
one.
Edcore. So is that a real thing? Like, or did you make that up?
No,
I'd
I
never heard of it.
not. No, apparently it is a real thing. And I can't even remember which way around it is. Look, I'm going to have to consult my own book to remember which way around it is in the moment. So glasses on moment. So yeah, those are the ones where a word or a phrase is replaced with a similar sounding word that arguably makes sense. So for example, old wise tale kind of makes perfect sense, but it's old wives' tale. So there
Mm.
are a lot of kind of idiomatic examples in this book as well, like tender hooks and chester drawers and all those kinds of things. Can't think of it. Like off your own bat. That's another one
Mm.
that so many people get wrong and say off your own back.
Mm.
Um, and then there's goal getter, like it's a go getter, isn't it? We kind of know that it's go getter. If we know, we know, because you don't look these things up if you think you know them. But a lot of people are starting to write goal getter, which arguably makes a lot more sense. And that is what an eggcorn is. So
I love
I think
that.
this is a lot of the way I find it fascinating, the way in which language develops over the years and the decades. And I think that goal getter might actually become more familiar and more common than go getter. And I don't think that would be a bad thing, but I
No.
just find it fascinating. And anybody who loves language or finds it fascinating or struggles with it in any way, we all have to write for our business, whether we're doing
Mm.
just, even if you work with a copywriter, you probably still have to write your own social media posts. And
Yep.
a lot of people say to me, and funnily enough, a lot of these people are language professionals, and I didn't really write the book with language professionals in mind, but all the language professionals I know who've got it have said, I keep it on my desk at all times just so I can dip in. But a lot of people will read it cover to cover to begin with because it's such a quick read.
Mm.
And it's then that you go, oh my gosh, I've been getting this wrong my entire life and I never knew, because you don't look it up when you think you know it.
Right, right. And I think that's so important. And it's interesting. I was reading this book last night about visual note taking and doing visual notes at conferences. And that's one thing we had at Uplift Live. We had a gal and she was recording all of our talks and, making those cool sketch notes. So anyways, I was reading this book and the author said, one of the hardest things for these sketch noters is the spelling, and they feel that they're going to get there. And she did it on a computer. So she did it on her iPad. She could make changes. But a lot of times they just have a great big white, whiteboard up or a big white piece of paper or whatever. And they said the intimidation, especially for artistic people, the
Yeah.
intimidation that they could be spelling something wrong. And they actually said, if you have words that are like your sort of like nemesis words, like receive and, recommend, like, is it it's 2 M's, 2 C's? What is it? If you have those, keep a list with
Yeah.
you that's handy, not just in your phone, but a list with all your art supplies. And I thought, wow, they need your book. So it was really good. It was really
I
good.
always think exactly that, because you'd be amazed at how many, well, you probably wouldn't be amazed, to be fair, because you are on social media, but I just find it so fascinating that so many people can get the words for their own industry wrong, like the number of hotels that can't spell accommodation. Like, what's
Yes.
that about? And it's just like, learn your words, like maybe half a dozen words that you need to use a lot in your own particular industry, then maybe some people wouldn't need to use, maybe day to day you don't write the word accommodation all that often, but if you work in a hotel, know
No,
how to spell these things. It's
I
a whole,
get it.
because I think a lot of people will still judge on, a lot of people will go, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, we all make typos from time to time. I absolutely agree with you on that. Quite often I need my glasses for everything now, it's my age. But quite often I'll be walking along trying to send a message and when I put my glasses on, I'll go, oh, there's a horrific typo in that
Yeah, what
message.
did I say?
I wouldn't be putting it on my website, like this stuff matters. People will judge on the basis if they've got 3 great looking coaches, for example, and their websites are all really impressive, but one of them is full of typos. You're just gonna, it's an easy way. It's the same with CVs. So resumes, if you're applying for a job and you've got mistakes in your CV, now a lot of industries, a lot of businesses will use AI to just screen out any resumes that have got typos in them. They don't even get as
Wow.
far as a person looking at them. So that's how important this stuff still is. I'm sorry if you don't like that, but it is
No, that's true. That's true. So let's hop over and get some comments. So Jeff Young says, I love the conversation on how humans connect, Gillian and Sarah. Namaste. So that's great, Jeff. Thank you. And looking forward to hearing examples of blah, blah versus ta-da. So that's a good one. So what do you think about that, Sarah? Blah, blah versus ta-da.
Well, that is my LinkedIn headline. So thank you for calling me on that, Jeff. I can't think of a single thing off the top of my head. I've actually got a note on my phone that has specific examples of copy that clients have written and how I have kind of condensed it down and made it more human, more punchy, more emotional, more engaging. Don't think I can access that while I'm on the live, but Jeff, I will drop you some specific examples afterwards.
Awesome. Put them in the comments afterwards, and then everybody can see. So that'll be good.
Great idea. Great idea.
So G says, greetings from Texas, Dallas, Texas. So glad to tune in and catch the 2 of you live today, Gillian and Sarah. And G is writing a book. And so again, your words are important, because if you're writing a book, it's like you got everything on the line. And to be honest with you, I have read some books, and there's just like, there's so many errors that you're just like, I can't even read this anymore. Like, it's like, even though the content is good, that's it. It just trips you up. So
you can spot the business books that haven't been edited a mile off.
Yes. LinkedIn user, because they don't have their settings on. Jeff will help them. Here to support you both. Sarah always has excellent tips about writing clear, accurate, and human content. That's nice. What a nice comment. That's lovely. Linda Brubaker, she says, hi from Chicago. So looking forward to this conversation and learning from both of you. So Linda is in the career space, helping job seekers. And so again, I love that. You just mentioned that, like, AI is screening out typos, and you don't know what is a typo and what's a spelling mistake, because it's like on my phone, it's a typo, because it's like I'm arguing with Siri, she autocorrect and she's doing stuff. But when you're writing, resume or your CV, that's all on you. Those are not typos. Those are like, you didn't do your job. You didn't do your job.
No, absolutely.
Emo says, hello all, I am watching from California. So we've got everybody all over the place. And Marcia says, I have to catch the replay. So I guess she had to dash. So she's from Washington, D.C. area. And G says, I'm still adjusting to AI and more receptive, but admit I am not a fan of seeing comments on posts, my own and others, from people that are starting to feel awkwardly AI-ish. I never enjoy responding to them as they're so mechanical and feel. So how do we spot an AI comment? Is there something like jumps out at you, Sarah, and you just go, red alert?
I just think it's a feel. It's just like AI suggested comments do seem to have a particular feel to them. And they're not especially robotic. They just lack that human something. I'm not quite sure what it is. Quite often it will be from people who aren't necessarily first tier connections as well, I've noticed. So people who are kind of going through, people who have got I've got like 11,500 connections. And I think I'm getting more of those types of comments from people who are outside of my network. And I think that for me makes them stand out. It's like, interesting insights into something that you've actually mentioned specifically in your post, like rather than having to read the article that's attached or whatever. And then it will do the thing of dropping just slight tangent. I remember one of the tips that was shared at Uplift Live. This is a second plug for John Esperian's event. Was that if you are one of the very best ways to stand out on LinkedIn is to leave comments with value. So even if you're commenting on your own post, maybe withhold a couple of the facts that you were going to put in the original post and pop a couple of additional comments in the comments below. But if you're adding comments to other people's posts rather than going, this is great, thumbs up, whatever, like that's not adding anything. And apparently any comment that is below 12 words can get flagged as being written by a bot. I don't know how true that is, but seems feasible, doesn't it? And it's a good encouragement to think of something that you can actually add value by saying, rather than just going, yes, great insight, thank you. Like, yeah.
Yes. And sometimes it's a pod. You know, sometimes it's not a bot, it's a pod, and you see the same people. Because I've noticed there's a couple people and I'm like, oh my gosh, is she really in a pod? Like, no wonder her videos are doing so well. And it's the same comment. Everybody's got the same comment. This is so valuable. This is so valuable. And it's like 10 people saying this is so valuable. And it's like, pod alert.
Oh, do you know what? That's my ignorance, not realizing that. Yeah, no, I did know engagement pods were a thing. I did know that they were a bad thing and that they weren't encouraged. But yeah, I mean, there's so much of the kind of lazy language out there, and it's like lazy language just makes you blend in, and human language helps you to stand out. So I know which I would prefer. And I think one of the examples that I always give when I'm doing a webinar or an event talking about this in a little bit more detail is using the language like those kind of knee-jerk phrases that get churned out time and time again in a particular situation. So something goes wrong and the business automatically, it's like autopilot, they'll go, we would like to apologize for any inconvenience caused. And it's like auto speak. Nobody actually stops to say, do people actually speak like that anymore? You know, I just why don't we just say, sorry, we're working to fix it? Like, just because that stands out. You know, when you get an email from a business and they say, sorry, we messed up, that stands out, and that will make me actually go, oh, okay, what's this email about? Whereas, you know, sorry for any inconvenience caused, or please do not hesitate. This is a terrible one, myself and yourself. I wrote a blog about that. That's a bugbear of mine. But when you see people saying, signing off an email from a customer service person saying, please do not hesitate to contact myself should you require further information. It's like, just let me know if you need any help. I'm here to help, whatever it is.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. LinkedIn user says, the retreat to formality is one of the big reasons why content producers alienate themselves from their audience. Keep it real, peeps. I love the word peeps, by the way. That's such a cute word, but it's true. We do want to keep it real. And I want to ask you, Sarah, one question. I remember it was like maybe a year or two ago, Richard Vanderblom talked about you shouldn't edit or post after, you know, you got to wait an hour. I don't know what the formula was. It was like some special, like magical formula. And if I post something and there's a typo or an error, I have to change it. I don't, algorithm be darned. I don't care. And I also revise my comments. I revise my DMs if I see mistakes. Am I goofy, or do other people do this? Do you ever do this? Do you correct your posts, or just like, it's out there, it's out there?
Oh, I 100% correct my posts, because I work with words for a living, and if there are typos in my posts, I want to know about it. And I'm not a fan of people calling someone out, you know, in a comment and going, oh, by the way, you used the wrong spelling of, you know, of stationery or compliment or whatever it was. I would always call someone in, like have a little quiet word and go, look, if this was me, I would want to know. You might want to ignore this, but I would want to just like DM and let someone know. So yeah, if I do it, please feel free to tell me. But yeah, I mean, it does happen from time to time, because sometimes I am typing without my glasses, and sometimes my phone auto corrects to the wrong word. It happens to everybody. So, we are all human, and I'm talking about human language. But people who say, oh yeah, I purposely leave my typos in my post to get attention. Ooh, dodgy strategy. Really dodgy strategy. I would not be doing that. I think that's very risky, because the more people who see it, register it, and don't go, oh, by the way, it'll be there.
Well, and I have to tell you, I'll share in all honesty, moment of vulnerability. When I hit the publish button on our LinkedIn Live and I scheduled the event in StreamYard, I went, oh gosh, I please hope I don't have any typos or grammatical. Like, it's like I looked, I double checked, and I went, I don't want Sarah to think I can't write. So it's just so funny, and you do that with everything. You write a review, you write a recommendation, and you're just like, but those are kind of things where actually a lot of people will give a recommendation and say, is there anything you'd like me to change? And unless it's a typo, I always let it go, because I think that's natural speak. And I would never want to like say, well, I'd rather you say this, it's like.
And then if you did do that, if you did say, oh, I'd rather you say this, then it means that all your recommendations are going to sound like they've been written by you, which is like a very dodgy. Like, occasionally somebody will say to me, oh, let me know what you want me to say in the recommendation. I'm like, that's not the point. I want to know what you want to say. I'm not going to spoon feed like that. That just, for me, that's just like morally wrong.
I agree.
Reviews, but that's a whole other topic.
Exactly. So we have lots more questions, but we'll have to address those after the live. So we'll hop in and we'll do those. I'm also going to put the link to Sarah's books, and I recommend everybody to go follow Sarah. If you want to connect with her, send her a lovely note, but send a good one. Make sure you write right. And before we leave today, Sarah, is there any kind of final takeaway you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, there's one thing that I was going to mention that came up in a review for my first book. Actually, it was another copywriter wrote a review and said, I'm going to explain where I'm going with this, but another copywriter wrote a review of the book and said, it's so refreshing to read a book by a proper copywriter who knows how to get the message from the page to the brain with the least resistance. And even now, just thinking about those words gives me goosebumps, because that's what we're all trying to do. It's all about simplifying your language, taking out the superfluous words, the fluff and the filler, and making your writing get from the screen to your reader's brain with the least resistance.
That's beautiful. And for any book writers, anybody in the audience who's book writing, I'm thinking of, that's an awesome thing. That's kind of something we all want on our computer, from the page to the brain. I love that. That's beautiful. So thank you, Sarah, for being with us today, and shared a lot of great value. And I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope everybody enjoyed meeting Sarah. So this was great. And we will see everybody back here next week. So bye, everybody.
Bye.